Hey guys, it's Cece and welcome to another Off Topic. Look at me! I got bookshelves again. I'm in an apartment and everything. So there's no guarantee that these shelves are going to stay the same. I'm still moving, I'm still settling. I don't have the brackets for my third bookshelf, so things might be changing eventually behind me. But for now, look, I have almost all of my books with me again, which is very exciting. So in case you don't know, Off Topic is a video series I do where I talk about anything I want, anything at all, and today I'm going to be talking about some movies that I have watched. I did a quarterly movie review for January, February, and March, and now I'm going to be talking about movies I watched in April, May, and June. Yes, I realize I'm a tiny bit late for this video, but I still really want to talk about all the movies I watched, so I've got some iced coffee, I have my list of movies that I watched over those 3 months, and let's talk about them. So, as per my last video, we're going to start with covering a few of the movies I rewatched, then we'll get into some of the older movies that I watched for the first time, and then we're going to talk about 2018 releases that I saw in the theater. So, rewatches, things that I enjoyed watching a second time. Well, enjoyed might be a strong word for this first one. The first thing I want to talk about is Avengers Age of Ultron. So I think I talked about this in my last movie review, but I was trying to get my aunt into Marvel movies, and it worked. We watched all of the Marvel movies. We were both prepping to see Avengers Infinity War, only I had already seen all the Marvel movies and my aunt had just seen Guardians and kind of the original, like, Phase 1 movies. I think Age of Ultron, honestly, upon a rewatch, ranks pretty low on my list of Marvel movies. I don't love it. But maybe rewatching this movie, going into a new Avengers movie, maybe it lowered my expectations effectively, because I'm gonna talk about Avengers Infinity War, but I really liked it, so maybe I just needed an Avengers movie that wasn't done as well to prep me for going into one that was done a lot better. I rewatched Fright Night, which is an excellent movie. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on my channel before, but it's a really, really fun movie, and this time rewatching it, I was kind of able to figure out more why. Turns out it was written by the woman who wrote most of season 2 of Buffy, and like, how are you gonna go wrong there? I love a good vampire movie. I love a good horror comedy. It's like a favorite genre of mine, the horror comedy, because I can't handle actually scary things for the most part. So horror comedy really kind of, it helps even it out. But this also has David Tennant in it, not doing his real accent, but it's still being pretty lovely to look at and listen to. Anton Yelchin is in it, and he is incredibly funny. I just really like this movie, and it became more apparent why once I figured out that Buffy people worked on it. I rewatched Notting Hill, which I haven't seen in years and years. I really like Notting Hill, I liked rewatching it, but honestly, my main takeaway for that movie is that 90s Hugh Grant looks exactly like a 2018 lesbian. Blown away. Style icon, hair icon. If I could only look like 90s Hugh Grant, that would be my lesbian ideal. I also rewatched a ton of other movies, but the last one that I really actually want to talk about is Star Wars The Last Jedi. I had only seen The Last Jedi one time. I saw it when it came out in theaters, opening day, and I liked parts of it, but I didn't love all of it. Like, I had issues with it overall, and I wasn't really sure how I felt about it, and then I let a lot of time pass before I watched it again. Since then, I have also watched the Movies with Mikey discussion on The Last Jedi, which, like, regardless of how you feel about the movie, I feel like I should recommend that you go watch. FilmJoy is an incredible channel, Mikey does incredible stuff, but The Last Jedi, that video gave me a ton to think about, so when I went back and rewatched the movie a second time, I feel like there were so many new aspects of it that I really appreciated. I still think that there are weaknesses, I still think that it goes on a little too long, and some of the storylines aren't quite as good as they need to be, but honestly, I love The Last Jedi, and I think it's an incredible film. I think Rian Johnson got a lot of flack for trying a lot of new and weird and different things, and I think that it was bold, and it was interesting, and that movie gave me so many moments that I absolutely loved, namely Rey. Obviously Rey's my fave, but also an aging Luke who is like a perfect crossover of his two mentors, Obi-Wan and Yoda. Like, he's this crotchety, weird old man, and he inherited it from them, and I love it. So yeah, those are my general feelings about The Last Jedi. I have lots of feelings in general about The Last Jedi because I really like it, but those were my rewatchy feelings. So now we're going to get into some movies that I watched for the first time, and they either came out in 2017 or earlier, so some of these are fairly new, some of them are not quite as new, but they were new to me, so let's talk about them. I have been, this year, very much in the mood for Oscar-type movies, whether they were nominated or they won. I've just been watching a lot of Oscar films, so I'm going to talk about a couple of those first. The King's Speech, I finally watched. I had never seen it before. This movie is very up my alley in a lot of ways. It's historical, it's British, it's got Colin Firth in it. I think that it dragged a little bit overall. It wasn't my favorite movie ever, but like, I know the story of this movie. I know exactly what's going to happen. None of it is that particularly shocking, but it's a well-made movie. It's an interesting movie to watch, and Colin Firth is really good in it. Also watched Titania, another Oscar movie that is based on a true story. I don't know that much about Tonya Harding. I didn't know that much about Tonya Harding. It was just a little bit before my time. All that was kind of gone and past when I was old enough to be aware of Olympics information. I know that this movie is somewhat or very biased towards Tonya Harding, and I know that that may not represent the full story, so I'm gonna take it away from the historical aspects of it and just say that I think that it was a fabulously acted movie. It was darkly comedic and had one of the best soundtracks I've ever listened to. Also, Sebastian Stan is in such heavy makeup for the, like, later interview parts of the movie that it took me ages to even realize it was Sebastian Stan, which is something else. Nightcrawler was a weird movie. This one wasn't nominated for Best Picture, I don't think, but I definitely know it was still an Oscar movie. It was up for screenplay or something like that. It's weird, it's weird. Here's the thing, I think Jake Gyllenhaal was put on this earth to unsettle me. I think that that's the truth. Like, I love him, and he's really excellent in a lot of movies. I just really enjoy Jake Gyllenhaal, but I feel like a lot of the movies I've watched with him in it this year, he just has this quality that's very off-putting and odd, and it works, but it didn't work as well in this movie for me. I was too off-put. He plays a very weird character, it's a very odd story, and like, I really wanted to like it, I was just bored, which is one of my least favorite movie critiques to hear. Like, I hate when people just say they were bored, but that's honest to God the truth. I was bored watching this movie, and I watched other Jake Gyllenhaal movies this year that I've liked a lot more than this one. So, he put his all into it. He was scary and different and alarming, but his performance was really the only thing I got out of this film. Actually, you know what movie I really liked him in that I watched this year was Life, which is the movie he was in with, he was in it with Ryan Reynolds. Him and Ryan Reynolds were the two that did, like, all the press for this movie, which is somewhat interesting when you actually watch it. I really like space horror. I like all movies set in space. I'm just a space fanatic. Like, if you're gonna put people up there to be slowly killed off, fine. If you want it to be a historical movie, if you want it to be a space opera, if it's in space, I'm cool with it. This was a really cool movie. There are a lot of moments when I think it gets a little bit predictable. It follows a pattern, especially with space horror, because there's not a lot you can do that is original. I mean, they're on a ship in space and something terrible happens. That's kind of the premise for all of these movies, and so they follow a pattern. But I do think that they also made a lot original. All of the cast is really interesting and bring really cool performances, which makes it stand out. And Jake Gyllenhaal was alarming in it. He was off-putting, but in a way that I really appreciated and that I thought in general was just excellent. So this movie stayed with me when I watched it, like I kept thinking about it afterwards. It was a really fun time, and I will definitely be watching it again in the future when I need a good space scare. Oh, I want to talk about a gay movie I watched that more people should watch, and that is Life Partners. This movie, I've, like, never heard anyone talk about it, and it's fantastic, especially if you're looking for gay movies, because it's gay. So this movie is about two best friends, Jillian Jacobs and Leighton Meester. I can never figure out how to pronounce her name. Sorry. One of them is straight, one of them is a lesbian, and they are, like, super bros, super best friends until Jillian Jacobs, the straight one, gets a boyfriend, and they start kind of distancing themselves from each other. There is an almost bizarre amount of lesbian culture in this movie. It's so weird. It starts out at Pride, which is really cool. There are so few movies. They're just at Pride. They're having a great time. They go to lesbian events. There are a bunch of lesbian friends. At one point, Leighton Meester goes on a date with Kate McKinnon. Like, but it also deals with friendship, especially female friendship, in a really detailed way. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie if you want gay movies, and I know that we are all starved for that. So it's been sad because these 3 months that I'm talking about, I didn't watch a ton of gay film, but the ones that I did, this one was a standout. The one that was not a standout, Kill Your Darlings. Now, this movie, again, so much potential. So much potential for me. It's gay. It's historical. Daniel Radcliffe is in it. All amazing things. Here's the problem. I think I hate Dane DeHaan. I think that that's the issue. Like, I do have the problem also that I felt like this movie was pretentious, and it falls into a very specific, not even specific, it falls into a genre of film that I don't particularly enjoy, which is, there are no women in this movie, and it's about men being angry. Which is not as specific a genre of film as you'd want it to be. That's like most film. But I figured that since they were also exploring sexuality, the, angry man aspect of it would be less terrible, and it wasn't, because it was also pretentious, which... It was pretentious in a Dead Poet Society way, which is one of my least favorite movies of all time. I actually very violently hate that movie. I think it's mostly Dane DeHaan's fault, because I watched another movie with him, A Cure for Wellness, and he was really boring and annoying in that too, so I don't know. Maybe there's a movie out there where I enjoy him in it, or maybe it's just that he makes really bad movie decisions, because A Cure for Wellness was an absolute disaster of a movie. The twists weren't that good, it was confusing, it went on for way too long. I felt like I was watching that movie for 8 years. And it just ended, and Dane DeHaan was in it the whole time, and I was still mad at him for Kill Your Darling, so I kind of couldn't get into it. So I don't know. Maybe it's just this actor's fault, maybe it's that I watched 2 really bad movies with him. Let me know, but in a nice way. Please. Okay, I feel like we should move into 2018 releases now. There are some other movies I watched, but I feel like 2018 releases are going to be somewhat the most important of this video. They're just the ones that I'm most hyped to talk about because they're new movies, so let's talk about them. First of all, A Quiet Place. I know it doesn't seem like that's a new movie anymore because it is already out on DVD, but it was the first movie that I watched in April, so... A Quiet Place, when I went and saw it, instantly became one of my new favorite movies of all time. I was really nervous about going to see it, because like I said, me and horror, me and thrillers, we have a tense relationship. But this wound up being more like a family drama masquerading as a suspense movie, which is one of my favorite things. Give me anything that is a family drama masquerading as another type of film. That's why I love Logan, is because it's a superhero movie, but it's not. It's a family drama that's a superhero film. Love it. John Krasinski gives an incredible performance. Emily Blunt gives an incredible performance. I really appreciated that they cast an actual deaf actress to play the deaf character in this movie, and that there was such a focus on set as far as using sign language, the cast and crew learning sign language, using it in the movie. I cried through this movie. The end of it, I just sat there and I cried. And that was a really cool experience for a movie like this, because I haven't had that experience before, and I just absolutely loved it. I know I'm not alone, but have to say that. Also, like I said, saw Avengers Infinity War and really liked it. I've seen it 3 times now, so I saw it twice in theaters, and then I just rewatched it a couple of weeks ago. Finally with my aunt. It was possibly a very bad decision to get her into Marvel movies, because it absolutely wrecked her. It wrecked me too, but I knew it would. Oh, I'm such a bad person for getting her invested in the Marvel characters that she didn't used to care about. I'm really curious, and I think a lot of my opinions on this movie are going to depend on how the second half of it goes, because this is the first half of a movie. And as a first half, it's really solid, in my opinion. It could fall apart in a second part. I thought that the work that has been done in this franchise to build up characters, to make everyone invested in these characters, was just so worth it for so many reasons, because you get this rich collection of characters who you actually know, and I was so worried that this entire movie was just going to be reaction shots and just going to be people bumping into each other and being like, whoa, you're here too. But it really didn't rely on that. It relied on its audience being smart and knowing what they needed to know going in, and I thought that that was a really interesting move that made for a much more interesting superhero movie. So here's hoping part 2 is really good, because I think that it has a ton of potential, and I really loved a ton of what they did in this movie, which is why I've seen it 3 times. Like, as a 2 theater viewing person, I was like, what if I don't like this when the hype's died down? But now that I've seen it again, just like at home, chilling in my pajamas, and I still really enjoyed it and still got really emotionally invested, I think that says something about the quality of the movie. Also saw Deadpool 2, another superhero movie, which was weirdly also kind of a family drama, and definitely a found family film, which is my fave. I don't have a ton to say about this, except that I liked it more than I liked the first one. I liked the first one. I thought that this one did better because it had more heart, and I always love my movies with a little bit of heart. Plus, this had gays! Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Yukio were adorable girlfriends! I couldn't believe I was sitting there watching a superhero movie, and they were girlfriends, and they were adorable. I love them. So in general, my takeaway from this is that I really, really liked it. I hope that they make a Deadpool 3, and I hope that Ryan Reynolds holds true to his, what he said recently, that he really wants to explore Deadpool's sexuality in a 3rd movie. Like, please, please give me canon pan Deadpool. Don't let me down, Ryan Reynolds. Please. I saw Ocean's 8. I loved Ocean's 8. Some of you may know that Ocean's 11 is one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time. Some of you may not know that about me. I've seen Ocean's 11, like, more times than I can even possibly hope to comprehend. I can recite it. I've seen the commentary track multiple times, so there was a lot for me writing on this movie, because I enthusiastically love Ocean's 11, but I thought it was such a fun movie. It didn't surpass Ocean's 11 in any way for me, sadly. I don't know if that would have been possible based on my personal love of Ocean's 11, but I thought it was brilliant. I loved all of the actresses involved. I didn't hate James Corden, which was a surprising twist. I wish that they had gone a little bit closer to making any of the, like, queer undertones overtones, because they were definitely undertones, and Cate Blanchett was obviously gay in that movie, and I just needed them to say it, because she's clearly gay in that movie. I was, like, salivating for 2 hours. So yeah, that's how I felt about Ocean's 8. I can't wait to rent it and watch it 100 million times, just like I do with Ocean's 11. It's gonna be delightful. And the last 2 2018 releases I want to talk about real quick, because I didn't really care about one, and I didn't like the other. So, I watched Proud Mary. I didn't like it. I knew from about the first 10 minutes I wasn't going to like it. It was just sort of happened. Like, that movie just happened, and then it was over, and I was like, that was Proud Mary. I love Taraji P. Henson, and I think that she's an incredible actress who can do incredible things, but the writing in this movie was really, really weak. The writing and the plotting. And that didn't give Taraji P. Henson a ton to do, which was unfortunate, because I think that they could have given her so much more to do. Also, they were very confused about the tone that they were going for. They wanted to name this movie Proud Mary, but they didn't know how to work in the song Proud Mary, so they just wrote a movie, and then at the end, they were like, oh, we gotta fit Proud Mary in here, even though it doesn't go with the tone of the film. Just stick it in there. Oh, it was such a confused film. It did not know what it was doing. And finally, Game Night. I watched Game Night, and it was fun. That's kind of my main takeaway. It's not like a life-changing movie. It's not amazing. It's not the best comedy ever written. It's fun. It's got good people in it. Jokes were good. I really liked seeing actors who I've seen play convincing, terrifying villains play sort of hokey, jokey villains in this. That was a joy. And that's it. Those are all the movies I'm going to talk about that I watched from April to June. April, May, June. I watched these movies and numerous others, but I feel like these are the most important ones that I wanted to cover. What movies have you been watching recently? What movies have you seen in the theater recently? I got MoviePass a couple of months ago, and even though it's been an absolute disaster, it means I've seen, like, all of the new releases, which has been exciting. So I did have to pay to see Mission Impossible Fallout, and that was frustrating, MoviePass. Anyway, let me know what movies you've been watching down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!